Authorities have identified the gunman as 28-year-old Ian Long, but are still working on determining a motive. The Marine Corps veteran had served in Afghanistan and may have suffered from PTSD. John Blackstone is in California with the latest.
Hours after the mass shooting, ATF and FBI investigators raided the house where Ian Long lived with his mother on a suburban street about 5 miles from the Borderline bar. In his mother's neighborhood, those who live nearby say he seemed to be frequently angry and unfriendly.
He wouldn't come out of the house that much, and when I did see him drive by, I'd wave at him. He would not wave back.
The 28-year-old served nearly 5 years in the Marines, including about 7 months of combat duty from November 2010 to June 2011 as a machine gunner in Afghanistan. He left the military in 2013. There were rumors Long suffered from PTSD. Donald McLeod could hear loud arguments across his backyard fence.
But he was a lot worse when he came back from the military.
Were you ever aware that he had guns there?
I suspected he had a gun there because I heard a gunshot one night about over a year ago.
During one disturbance, neighbor Tom Hansen took action.
I called the police on him that time just because I didn't know if he was hurting himself.
Law enforcement had several contacts with Long, mostly minor, a traffic accident and an incident where he was a victim in a fight at another bar. But Ventura County Sheriff Jeff Dean says on one occasion, deputies were called to the house and found Long acting irrationally.
Our mental health specialist who met with him, talked to him, and cleared him didn't feel that he was qualified to be taken under 5150, and he was left at that scene last April.
5150 refers to a California law that would have allowed Long to be involuntarily held for 72 hours for a psychiatric examination. Without a mental health red flag, there was nothing to prevent him from owning a gun. Elaine?
John Blackstone, thank you. Bill Stanton is a former New York City police officer. He joins me now on set. Bill, thanks so much for being here. Give us a sense, how are investigators piecing together a possible motive at this point?
Well, naturally, they're going to his place of residence. They're going to be looking at his electronic footprint, social media, canvassing area, friends, family, neighbors, etc. Once they get into his computer, they're going to glean a tremendous amount of information.
And there are reports, Bill, that the shooter may have suffered from PTSD from his time serving in Afghanistan and the Marines. How might that factor into the investigation?
Well, that may have a tremendous amount. Once they look at the psychological profile, was he seeking help? Was he on any narcotics, prescription or otherwise? What were his religious bends, his political bends? You know, what made this man tick and what made him explode? And
if he sought mental health treatment, they would be able to find those records.
Exactly.
As well. So there have been 307 mass shootings just this year. We are 311 days into this year, and that's a mass shooting almost daily. When you look at this question of so-called soft targets, what can law enforcement officers do to better protect those areas? I know you've written a book about this.
Yes, thank you. From the perspective of law enforcement, it is a combination of a private and public working together in unison. You know, a lot of these people are heroes that were in this club because they had what's called situational awareness. Once they heard those pops going off, some people thought it was a joke. The people that think it's a joke are going to be there for a heartbeat, maybe too long. The people that instantly react to the run, hide, fight scenario are going to be the ones statistically to get out of there alive. Now, to answer your question, how does law enforcement? Well, law enforcement constantly has to be on the lookout, on the search to gather information. If someone picks up on the phone and says, hey, my friend's making these threats to everyone and everyone on the internet, on social media, it's up to law enforcement to take a close and a longer look at that person in particular, as opposed to just, you know, going about their daily work.
It's a tough job, though, when you talk about a society like ours that's an open society, right? I mean, this is the thing, when you have areas where people gather, it would seem to me it's going to be a very difficult thing to try and protect all of those places.
Yeah, you can't depend on, unless unless you have a one-to-one ratio, a police officer or law enforcement to every citizen, which isn't going to happen, it has to be the cooperation of the public, reporting people, doing something like that a little out of bounds, that you see this wave coming of potential violence. But ultimately, we have to depend on each other to combat these people that, unfortunately go off the rails psychologically.
All right, Bill Stanton. Bill, thanks so much.
Thank you.